Welcome back to Bowls with the Bard. My name is Cakes. I am your host. For today's episode, we will be talking through my process and experience of auditioning for the Old Globe for grad school. But before we do that, let's get a little high. Started. So, I started applying physical written application, I think in either August or September, right around the time when the application went up. And I cannot recommend starting your application as early as possible highly enough. What this did was open up doors for me to be able to look into anyone who might know any alumni, anybody who's associated with the program, and get into contact with those people. Now, the benefit that came from doing that was that I filled out my whole application, I had answers to my questions, I was feeling really good about them, and then I spoke to somebody about the program, and one of the questions that they had asked, I gave an answer that was directly in contrast to the information that I was given by that alumni. So if I had put that down, the people who were reviewing my application may have looked at that answer and gone, she's not gonna get that here, and then moved on. And so it was super, super helpful to be able to talk to multiple alumni from the program and to be able to take their insight and bring that into my answers in my application. So I started the application August, September-ish, and then I didn't end up finishing it until November, about a month before the application was due. Once the application was in, I then received an email from the Old Globe scheduling me for my audition on January 28th, which was yesterday. After you submit all of your material and your audition is scheduled, my biggest piece of advice would be to pick your material ASAP. Some universities are gonna ask you for one classical, one contemporary. I auditioned for classical theater school, so that was obviously the case there. But make sure you pick your material, be excited about it, and beyond that, I would say don't let anybody give you any other advice about how to choose your material. Just don't. I stressed so much over this point. I spent weeks, literally weeks, trying to decide what I was going to do for this audition, convincing myself that the material that I already had in my arsenal somehow couldn't be enough, so I had to pick something completely new and build it from scratch, and that's dumb. If you have audition material that you absolutely love, do that material. And if you don't, find that material and don't pick something until you connect with it. It is so important to connect to your material. In my case, the material that I ended up picking was material that I have been doing for multiple years. So I'm gonna give a little advice here, but if you picked brand new material, don't follow this advice. My advice would be, if you end up picking material that you have had in your arsenal for a long time, take a month off. Don't think about the grad school audition, don't stress about it, live your life, enjoy. Because what I ended up finding in January was this. In January, I talked to my life coach and I was feeling super stressed out about this audition and about my own self-confidence, and we came up with the idea that I should build a grad school audition routine. Specifically because I'm auditioning over Zoom, and that gives me the opportunity to literally do the same thing in the space I would be auditioning in every day and make the audition feel like it's just something I've done. Now, whether you're auditioning over Zoom or in person, I cannot stress just how much having this routine helped me in this audition process. Having something that I did every day to build up to that moment It did. It made it feel like the actual audition was not a big deal. Like, it was just an everyday thing. My personal routine included doing some yoga, hopping in the shower, listening to some pump-up music, getting out of the shower, doing a 10-minute meditation on self-esteem. Then I would blow dry my hair while listening to pump-up music. I would take a break, eat a baked potato because that is one of my favorite foods. Then I would hop back in the bathroom, curl my hair, which is the longest process ever, so I made sure that I always had like the most fun music to listen to. Then I dove into a physical warm-up. Then I would change my clothes into my audition outfit. I wore it like every day for 3 weeks. It smells really bad, but it looked great, so whatever. Then I would do a vocal warm-up. I would make sure the space was all set up, and then I would run my monologues. Now, the problem that I ran into with this was that I was already doing material that I had done a million times, and now I was doing it every day leading up to this audition. And so I started to notice that after doing this routine like 6 or 7 times, the material was starting to feel stale. I was like, I'm tired of making these choices, and I'm stopping being excited about the material that I've chosen. The solution to this problem, and this is another thing I cannot recommend highly enough, I found myself a coach, and you should absolutely have a grad school audition coach. If this means that it's your roommate, somebody else who does theater who can just give you a second opinion, ask for that second opinion. If you have the funds to pay for a coach, please pay for a coach. It's worth it, and if you're going to go through all this trouble to try to get into grad school, invest in yourself, just do it. The reason I say this is that working with somebody else can breathe new life into your pieces, and that is exactly what happened for me. I had 2 coaching sessions with Owen from Bard City. The first time we just ran my Shakespeare, and in that time he was like, I don't like this cut. I don't think that it rounds out the speech. I think that you should finish the whole thing. And so all of a sudden this piece that I had worked on forever had 5 new lines at the end, and new choices to be made, and new discoveries to be found. He reminded me that since I've been working on this speech for such a long time, some of the basic things like knowing where each thought ends might blur together or go away. And he challenged me to look at the speech in some places in a way that was completely different than how I interpreted them. The second week, we worked on my contemporary piece and what I added to my Portia speech. I had been working on my contemporary piece way longer than the Portia speech. It's something that I will probably be able to recite forever. And once again, he challenged me to look at different parts of the speech in a different way. He challenged me to see the relationship with my imaginary scene partner in a different way. And he challenged me to think about the tone of the speech and how likable characters can sometimes be more favorable than unlikable characters when people are trying to decide whether or not they like you. So we made the tiniest changes to that speech, but by the end, I had all of this energy. I was so excited because it felt right and new for the first time in years. The other benefit of having a coach is that you can get external validation. That, it's important. It just is. You can love yourself and you can reassure yourself, but it's theater. Other people are watching what you're doing and they have opinions and ideas about what you're doing. And to hear 1 week before you audition for grad school, yeah, you're ready, it boosts your confidence. It's an amazing feeling. And then you just ride that wave to the finish line. And the beauty of it is that since that work was done so close to when you do the real thing, it's still fresh and exciting and new. And the people behind your table or on your screen, they're going to be able to feel that excitement. Speaking of external validation, another thing I did for myself about a week before the audition, I got on Facebook and I told everybody, I'm doing this big thing, this exciting thing, I want it And please send me your thoughts, your prayers, your texts, whatever you can to support me in this next week. Y'all, never be afraid to ask for support, because my community came through in a way that blew me away, in a way that whether I get into grad school or not, I will remember that feeling for the rest of my life. I received dozens, maybe like 100 texts, calls, like comments, just so much support from my community telling me and confirming for me that I deserve this, that I am amazing, and that if it doesn't happen, it has nothing to do with me or my work ethic or my talent. That slew of affirmations, those external perspectives, they will be so valuable to you. They will make you feel so loved, and feeling loved helps you love yourself. And that helps you so much in an audition setting. And finally, the day before, my mom reached out to her sister, who happens to be an expert in meditation, and her sister and I had a phone call the night before my audition in which she led me through about a 45-minute visualization exercise where she walked me through what was going to happen the next day, how I was going to feel, and why. Obviously, not everybody is going to have an aunt who can lead them through a meditation, but I'm certain that as actors, you probably know somebody who can. Reach out to them. Ask if they are willing to guide you through something the night before your audition. Because holy cow, just as that feeling of anxiety was about to set in, instead, this feeling of quiet confidence was able to take over. This calm was able to take over. And even though this was the most important audition I have ever had, I have never been more calm, ready, and just like present for an audition. I kept waiting the day of for that feeling of dread, that anxiety, or even like an overwhelming adrenaline to kick in, and it never happened. Part of what helped with that I'll share with you that came from the meditation was this idea of giving yourself affirmations, saying things like, I am ready, I am talented, I am a badass. But while you're saying those things, tapping at heart center. It really helps to ground it in your body. I brought this part of the meditation with me through to the rest of my day. Anytime I did start feeling any twinge of nerves, I stopped and I gave myself affirmations and I tapped on my chest and it all went away. Overall, what I think I'm getting at with this is, let the first half of your process be clinical and technical, and let the overthinking happen in that moment. And then as you get closer and closer, focus on the self-love. Focus on how you can make yourself feel the best for this moment, and focus on what you have to give in that moment. Because you do. You have talent and intelligence and brilliance and so many wonderful things about you that you have to give to this program, and that's what you're here to show. And finally, be bold. I had a conversation with my dad about the question that I would ask them in the interview section of this audition, and my dad reassured me that it was a really good question. And I was so stressed about this element. It's something that I feel like you get asked in any interview or any audition. You have them ask you a bunch of questions, and then once that period is done, they ask you if you have any questions. And so I'm usually terrible at that element. I usually never think about that, and then in the moment I'm like, oh my God, I should have had a question to ask. I should have had some way of engaging them. Right? So, of course, the one time that I actually prepared something, they didn't ask. I'm really proud of myself because I was proud of that question, and I saw that they were wrapping things up without asking me if I had any questions. And I stopped the wrapping up process and I said, oh, I'm sorry, I have a question that I would like to ask you. And I got to ask that question, and we had a brief but nice conversation about it. And afterward, the program director told me that he thought that that was a really good question. Now, I don't know if any of it, is going to get me into grad school. But I will tell you what it did for me. It gave me this amazing perspective that I am worthy, I was prepared, I am enough, and that if I don't get in, it has so little to do with the work that I put into it, so little to do with who I am, and so much more to do with the quota that they need to fill to build a company of 14 people. That's it. Because I built a grad school audition routine, I believe so much more in myself than I ever have in my whole life. I might not get in, or I might, and that would be the most amazing thing in the world. I hope it happens, but if it doesn't, I know I'm enough. And I want you to feel that way too when you go through your grad school audition process. I want you to get to the end of it and be able to say, obviously, I care whether or not I get in. But if I don't, I know who I am. And that person is a badass Shakespearean. I'm really proud of myself for this process, and I hope somewhere in this high girl rambling you find some advice that helps you with your process. I hope you get in. I hope you believe in yourself, because you're awesome. You really are. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube and WeedTube. We'll be back in February with some more Shakespeare-specific content. But until then, see y'all later. Bye.
Lay me where sad true lover never find my grave to weep there.